Welcome, paranormal enthusiasts, to this week's episode of Creepin It Reel, here on the Coast to Coast Entertainment Network, where everyone comes for their paranormal fix. Real people, real stories, in real time. So glad you could join us for some ghostly gab. I'm your host, Eleanor Wagner.
Hey there. As always, I appreciate you hitting the subscribe tab, follow button, or show app on your podcast of choice. Everybody give a hello shout out to our Coast to Coast techie, Crispy Bacon. He'll be working hard tonight to help us run smoothly. Tonight's guests are a team of 9 women who make up Elite Vixen Paranormal, although all 9 will not be here. It's just a few of them. But there is a whole group of 9 women. Samantha Glum, the founder of the team, began her paranormal journey when she was 17 years old. Chanel Gwartney is the co-founder of the team, and she will be with us tonight. Jessica Smith is also one of the founding members of the team, who is one of the lead investigators, and she might be dropping in a little bit later. And Rachel Trisilla, though one of the newest Vixens, having joined in October 2022 because of her dedication and commitment, earned her the title of lead investigator. Quickly, she will be here tonight. Other Vixen members include Raina Woodman, Emily Murphy, Abigail Gwartney, Janice Landis, and Erica McElroy. So join me in welcoming these lovely ladies to the show tonight. Hi, Chanel. Hi, Rachel.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, how are you?
Coming. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
I don't know if you guys know it, but I founded a paranormal team, and we started out as the Lady Ghostbusters when we began, because we were all women with just one man at the time who considered himself an investigator with the ladies. Now I have an equal amount of women to men, so we renamed the team the New Jersey Spirit Hunters. I do have to say, though, that with an all-woman team, there was a gross amount of paranormal drama, so much that it broke up the all-women team, believe it or not. At the time, I was plugging hard and getting a great deal of exposure for the team, and some of the other women were causing issues over it. I mean, we were in American Paranormal Magazine on my authorship feature, and drama erupted. So I'm feeling a lot more comfortable with the team the way it is now, because the whole incident caused so much stress. Betrayal, upset. I almost walked away from paranormal investigating altogether if it wasn't for the other members who had supported me. I might have done so if they weren't there. So I guess my first question to ask you is, are you ever afraid that female personal egos might get in the way of things? Chanel.
I can tell you, so we've been
I think you're on mute. You were on mute there for a minute, I think.
Yeah, somebody had tried to call me, of course. Can you hear me now? Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
So we've been a team for 5 years, and I think that with any paranormal team, there's always that possibility of, bad beef or drama. But I can tell you, in my experience, we've experienced more negative feedback or negative interactions from men in the field than we have women.
Really?
Yeah. And I don't know if maybe that's a Tennessee thing, because down here, all of the groups, we all know each other. We all collaborate together.
Sure.
We all work
Same
together.
Here.
Yeah. And so that's not really a thing. And I recently was on a panel, and actually that question got brought up.
Did
the cattiness. Yeah, the cattiness. And I had the exact same response. I've really not experienced that.
That's so good. Because with me, I'm all about, let's do this together. Let's work as a team. Let's help each other to grow. And just to have that experience. I mean, I took these women under my wing, and I embraced our friendship and really valued it so much. And then to have that happen all at once, it was really, really upsetting. And I'm so glad now that I've finally reached a comfortable place, because it was traumatizing. I hate to sound so dramatic, but it really was, because I'm getting old now, and I'm so over that high school bullshit. And you think at this time in your life, you can just go and have fun and learn and grow with everybody and have that happen. I was just like shocked. So I'm glad that you really don't experience that, because it and to hear that you get it from the men, that's wild. And I guess I kind of see it like maybe the envy and the jealousy. Oh, these women, they're sexting it up and look at their picture and never trying to take us seriously, but we are serious. And when you're doing pictures like that, it's fun to do those pictures. You know what I mean? We did the same thing. It was fun. And I thought we looked great, just like you guys look great. What's the big deal when it comes down to doing the paranormal investigating? We're serious about it. Just because we have a promo picture that makes us look good doesn't mean that we can't paranormal investigate, right? Rachel?
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think that since I've been on the team, I consider them all like family, or more like, I feel like they're my sisters. I really felt like, because I moved from California back in 2019 here to Tennessee, and I really just didn't know anybody. And so finding Elite Vixen Paranormal was kind of like my saving grace, I feel like, in a lot of ways, because I feel like, I finally found, people who understand, who like the things I like, into like going and finding and seeing if we can document evidence of ghosts, spirits out there.
And they're not gonna call you crazy because you have special gifts or intuitions, like sometimes that you run into, and when you have a sensitivity to spirit, people are like, yeah, bullshit. Just like the whole orb discussion, how there's that big division about whether it's an orb, whether it's not. Really, it gets to be ridiculous after a while.
No, and we just mesh really well, I think, together. And we all have come from, different background, different perspectives, but we still just gel. Like, if we get together and we see each other during the investigations, it's like there was no time lost,
I love that.
Yeah.
Hey, Chanel, do you know how Samantha came up with the name Elite Vixen Paranormal?
So of course we wanted to play on the EVP. Mm-hmm. She had like
that. That didn't even dawn on me. That's good. I like that.
Yeah, so we had a couple when we were talking about it, actually, like there were a couple ideas, like we were talking like maybe using the word like essence or whatever. We joked one time about using the word vagina because there were all these women,
Oh my gosh, you would have really heard about that one.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. But yeah, I think that she was just like toying around with different words, and she come to us, and of course this is like the very beginning, and she's like, what do you guys think about the name like Elite Vixen? And we were like, oh my God, like how perfect is that? So like I said, I think she was just playing around with like different words, and Sam's really creative like that. She can just come up with like honestly like titles and like things like that, so she's just really good like that with putting words together, and it worked out beautifully. And like when she said that, I was like, we're gonna have to copyright that, right? And she was like, yeah. So that was one of the first things that we actually did, was get that copywritten or copyrighted or whatever the correct term is.
Trademarked,
right?
Trademarked. Thank you.
Yeah, trademark. There's a bunch of different things that you can do to protect yourself and the name and stuff.
Yeah.
Because I went through that with Lady Ghostbusters too. So, but you've been experiencing paranormal activity all your life, Chanel, right?
Yeah. I didn't know what it was.
How so?
Well, so the house that I grew up in, my family's just the second family that owned it. And I can remember being like real little and just feeling like I was being watched, hearing things, like experiencing things. And it wasn't until I was 17 that I realized what it was. And I went to my dad and I was like, Dad, is our house haunted? And he said to me, and I've said it multiple times, and I don't think I'll ever forget it. He was like, I'm going to tell you what my mother told me. Because once again, second family to own the house. And the house was built in like the 1850s or 1870s. We're not quite sure. But he was like, you leave them alone and they're going to leave you alone. And like, I remember my, like, every hair on my body stood up, and I was like, oh shit. You know, that's what I've been experiencing.
You didn't expect him to say that.
No.
You didn't expect that answer.
Not at all. So, and that
That's
actually, yeah, well, realizing that, like, you know, it's like my family, essentially. That's what we think. But really jump sparked my interest in the paranormal. I think that when you grow up with experiences like that, you have like a pretty solid foundation and a pretty good interest in the field for the most part.
Sure. I have found, though, that people that are nurtured at a younger age are much more advanced and developed in their gifts. Because like you, I was seeing things when I was a kid too, but my mom would say, oh, it was just a dream. Oh, it was just a dream. And now I know that the spirit just knew that I could see him and was trying to get my attention. So if I could go back to that house now, I'd say, I'm sorry. But I was terrified at 5, you know. It wasn't until my parents moved me down in the basement that I actually got a good night's sleep, because I was terrified of this man that just wanted to be acknowledged. And it was pretty sad now when you think about it. But I also was experiencing premonitions when I was a kid too. And that had a bad effect too, because at one point, one of the premonitions was a horrible one, and that came true, and it just kind of shut me down. So now when things started to change for me when I was 30, I never got that part of my gift back, which is kind of sad, because had I nurtured it when I was younger and understood that you really have no control over the good or the bad. It just, it is what it is. It's not your fault if something bad happens. But I didn't have that guidance, unfortunately. So I'm kind of like late to the game and trying to learn whatever I can now in my age here. So, I mean, but being around people like yourselves, it's just great, because we all kind of have that piece of the puzzle that fits together, and we all learn from each other. And that energy alone is just crazy how, with all the sensitivities, people who are less sensitive start to get even more sensitive. It's amazing. It's really cool. But Rachel, you threw yourself into the paranormal mix. Why such dedication? What inspired you?
Well, I think I mean, I had a couple of experiences when I was younger too that kind of wanted me, like, just to learn more and more about paranormal. And I just think it just took me a long time to find a group that I could be a part of.
Sure.
So yeah, I had experience, you know, perhaps seeing my grandfather when I was younger, right after he passed. And then I also had, as a teenager, in a location with a friend's house who they had a spirit there that had been haunting the house for quite a while. And that's one of the main ones, because I felt like, you know, I was touched there at that property, and that just really, like, as being like, I think it was 16 years old, something like that, it definitely springboarded my journey into wanting to know more about the paranormal.
It didn't freak you out?
Oh, it freaked me out for sure. Because I was just like, no, I was like, who touched me? Who touched me? Who's around me? And everybody, you're crazy. You are crazy. Nobody touched you. And I was like, 100%. Like, I was like, I can't be in here. I have to leave. Let's get out. But then after that, I was like, I need to know more. Like, I want to know what this was. Why me? Why not somebody else? Like,
yeah. Well, I hear from a lot of people that I interview that have these gifts. They just thought it was normal. They thought that everybody was like that until they realized that they were different. And when they realized they were different, they were like quiet about it because they were different. So it's kind of sad when you hear that, especially people that are older, like who have been dealing with this 40, 50 years, because back then, had they opened their mouths, they were called crazy. And, parents were like, don't talk about it, they'll put you away, and, shit like that. And now people are more accepting about it because you hear it so often. You hear people coming out, that happens to me too. It happens to me too. And then it's kind of like, oh, okay. Yeah, we are different, but everybody really has the ability, just some more so than others, especially if it's been going through generations of families, then it's just in your genes. And then the people who just shut it out, they're just never going to learn anything about it because they're in denial. Although it's healthy to be a skeptic, because as I understand it, Raina, your member, is kind of the group skeptic, right?
Yeah, she's definitely more skeptical. We all kind of, when we investigate, we come at it from a scientific approach, of course. So we all try and debunk. We all try and think of like a natural occurrence that could cause that. But Raina's the one that she'll be like, I don't know. And, she'll really be like, well, especially like with analyzing evidence, she'll be like, I don't know, guys, like that could be a reflection, so she just dives a little bit more. And, like you said, like we love skeptics in the field because they kind of like hold us accountable and make us more credible, so yeah, we appreciate her having definitely that perspective for sure.
Abigail had mentioned something about urban exploring. I've never heard anything like that before. Can you explain, one of you guys, what the urban exploring thing is? Maybe Rachel, you want to try that one for me?
I mean, I'd like to go do it. I've never done it, but essentially, I as I understand it, it's going into locations that are abandoned.
Oh, okay.
Am I correct, Chanel? Yeah, it is. So Abby, me, and her dad, we used to do a lot of that. And honestly, before I was even like investigating in the
I think
field,
everybody has. Hasn't
right,
everybody
yeah,
gone into the abandoned building because they just wanted to check it out? I mean, that was one of my favorite things to do as a kid.
Yep, go into them. Oh, when I was house hunting, I used to do it all the time. It'd be like, oh wait, let's check this one out. How can we get in? But yeah,
I didn't know that. I never knew that there was a title for it, though. I didn't know it was called urban. So you learn something new every day. And is it true that Erica has a haunted attraction in Silver Point, Tennessee?
Yeah, she does.
Tell me about it. That is so cool.
So do you want? I mean, you can if you want. You've been there as many times as I have, so you can talk about it.
Yeah, so she has it with some friends, I think, that she has. Is it? I always get the name wrong. If it's Haunted Hollow or Halloween Hollow.
It's Halloween Hollow Haunt.
Okay, close. I had some of the names in there, so yeah. I mean, it's basically, I guess during the fall, during spooky season, that's when they have that attraction happening. I think she also does like a camp as well,
during
like
the season, right?
During the spooky season. Yes, exactly. So they have, when we were there, they had multiple buildings that they. One was pretty cool because they had it turned into like a video store that had like it was very nostalgic. It was like, okay, this is kind of like a independent Blockbuster in here. And we were all looking at videos and stuff while we were waiting for, that's kind of like where they started you. But that was pretty fun. And they had like a corn maze out in the field there.
Oh, that's fun.
And they had a team that had like an actual, where they decked out their cars like a Ghostbuster, like the Ghostbusters.
Yeah. That's cool.
And they had the packs on and the suits and everything. So it was a fun time.
Well, it sure sounds like it. Hey, Chanel, I love that you're interested in historical location research, because when I write my book on true account hauntings, it's important that I write about the history of the town and the history of the location. when I'm able to do so, because so much history gets lost. And when
Mhm.
kids read my books, at least they're learning history of the towns while they're reading it. So I just think that's cool. I love that.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite parts actually, is learning all about the history. And like, we recently were at the Old Stone Jail and up in Franklin, Kentucky, and like it was me, Rena, and Rachel in that investigation. And we had, first off, it was a phenomenal investigation, and I think that that's because there was just the three of us. But like while we're communicating with the spirits, we kept like getting names and stuff. And then like Raina and I start going down this rabbit hole of like searching names to find any kind of like, corroboration. And like, we believe that we were communicating with a gentleman, but with the last name Alderman. And like his wife, he was in prison there for murder.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and so his wife died while he was in prison, and they actually took her body to the jail so he could say goodbye to his wife.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, and so we found all of this while on the investigation. And I'm
Power of
also really,
modern technology, right? That you're able to just
yes,
Google that name that you get. And isn't it so cool when it
mhm,
comes from full circle? It's like, oh my God, there's actually
yes,
this person's. Yeah, I love that.
yes, and it's the coolest thing to me when you find that, and it's like, well, I don't know, but we were getting like, we got like the name Mary, and then like all these things, and we're like, okay, well, let's see if there's any kind of credibility to what we think we just heard. And then to
Hmm.
find it, like, that's just awesome to me. Oh, my
Yeah,
lights went out in my car again.
that's okay.
Yeah, it was pretty fun. We were looking at, they have some historical records in the old stone jail, and we were trying to find if we could find any record of that. And
Mhm.
so we were trying to see if we could find a book that had like the information we were searching for.
Yeah.
But we ended up having to go. We went across the street, is like the historical like archives for the
Hmm.
town. And that place is fascinating in itself too, and reportedly haunted, but uh, has a bunch of artifacts in there. But we did find like uh, the records of the court
Hmm.
that showed like the name of the actual inmate that was in there and his court case, and then who he
Wow.
murdered. And we were able to bring that actually to um, the gentleman there who worked at the historical and also worked at the Old Stone Jail, and he said he would be able to pull the file and everything.
Oh,
So
that's great. I love that.
didn't he end up giving it to you?
Yep, it's sitting on my desk at home right now.
Well,
Yep,
I
he gave
asked
me
you guys to
all the
discuss three
files.
locations that you all investigated that warranted fruitful evidence for you. And you suggested, well, that was one of them, but the first one we were going to talk about was the Octagon Hall
Oh,
in Flint, Kentucky. And I'm going to have Chris put up a picture of the location for the viewers so they could see what that looks like. I'm going to give picture credit to Larry Akrid because he took the photo that we're putting up. So, but the lovely historic building is an antebellum landmark known for its Civil War history. It was built in 1847. It stands today as a monument to a bygone era. The location has been a private residence in the past, Masonic meeting lodge, a hospital, and even a safe house for soldiers during the Civil War. So why was it that you guys selected this particular location as an investigation location? You want to tell me about that, Chanel?
So Octagon Hall is my home away from, like, it's my paranormal home away from home. I have investigated there so many times. That location is like, it's indescribable how much activity goes on there. It's one of those places that activity goes on all hours of the day, night. You can talk to a myriad of different types of spirits. I've talked with Civil War soldiers. I've talked to the Caldwell family, the family that built the house. I've talked with their family members. I've talked to slaves that they've had. I've talked to their children. It's just an amazing place. You'll get everything from full-bodied apparitions to disembodied voices, phenomenal EVPs. Like, it's, for me, no other location like compares to Octagon Hall.
Wow.
Well, and I feel like that because I personally believe that when you go to locations, and when the hauntings that are there are like, residual type hauntings, whether they're intelligent or not, like, they get to learn you. And I feel like that's part of the reason why it's so good to me, is because I've been there so often that they know who I am. And that's even been like, questions that we'll ask during EVP sessions. Like, if we got a spirit box running, can you name, one of the investigators that's here, one of the people that are here? And, I've had my name.
They recognize you.
Yeah,
they recognize
exactly.
you. That's kind of like when I'm in a private residence, and because I get a lot of calls from people that are in private residences and say, because they read my books and they're like, oh, could you come to my house? We got something going on. And the first thing I tell them to do is make sure you're acknowledging that spirit, because they know that you're in their space, and then you'll have a relationship. And I've interviewed people that have been in these homes for 30, 40 years. And when they go to retire and leave their home, they are so sad to leave their spirit family behind, because they've been in their lives for all these years, because they know each other. So they do recognize who you are. That's for sure.
Oh, absolutely. And yeah, and like I said, I think that that's one of the reasons why I just love that location. It's so cool. And you can get every type of paranormal activity there. People have reported aliens. People have, like, they use the land for, squatching. They go find Bigfoot up there.
Okay.
Like, every type of paranormal activity happens there. I think it's because it's on like the 37th parallel.
Oh, okay.
And of course, it was a Masonic temple. Andrew Jackson Caldwell was a 37th degree Mason. So, there's all, like, the Masons, there's all this mystery behind them, and that's definitely tied to the land, plus the Civil War history, at one point in time. Yeah, there was like 9,000 soldiers that were there.
Wow.
And
they was bound to have something happen to them there that they, that's crazy.
Oh,
well,
yeah.
You brought a clip that you took from the parlor room in the Octagon. I mean, I'm sure you have a lot of them, but that's the one that you guys sent, and Chris is going to put it up for us. What exactly happened in that clip before we watch it?
So we were doing just an EVP session in there. We had gotten, we were getting like interactions before then. And I can't remember if it was like a cat ball or the REM pod or something, but we were getting intelligent responses during the EVP
I love
session.
the cat balls. They are so
I love
cool.
cat balls. Yes.
Cheapest and most inexpensive paranormal equipment you could buy.
Yes, and they're awesome.
Yeah. We do have somebody from Professional Paranormal Research commenting in, saying hi and giving you hugs, Vixen.
Yes, that's Dustin. He's one of our very good friends.
Oh, that's nice. Well, I'm glad.
Actually, the last time we were at Octagon, he was there.
All right. So we'll let Chris run that clip for us now.
Okay, great.
No. K3 City. Oh, how close are you to it, Dingus? Not that close.
Yeah, because we've been sitting basically right where we are. Oh, did the REM pod just hit? Because I just had a light blink. I wonder if they both are hitting. Yeah.
Do we have any soldiers still here with us?
For those of you that may not be familiar, Octagon Hall was built in like the 1850s, and during words are hard, at 2 o'clock in the morning, the American Civil War, it actually was overtaken by the Union soldiers, and it was also used. Oh, okay. All right. I see you. So we're talking about it, and now you get excited. Okay.
And they respond to it. That's great. I love that.
Yes, that happens often. You start talking about the war, it goes crazy.
It's funny, when we were doing an investigation in the mines, we brought whiskey with us, and that was a good trigger bringing the whiskey because the miners would, drink their booze after they got off shift. So when you bring those little triggers, it's amazing the things that can happen, just like you bringing up, just in general, the war,
Yeah, I
It says
always
Rachel
use.
and Chanel rock. You guys rock, but we already knew that.
Oh,
what were you going to say, Chanel? I'm sorry.
Oh, I was saying that I always do like a cigarette offering, a tobacco offering. Always,
Yeah,
every time
that's
I'm
good.
there, I offer tobacco.
That's good. Yeah. Who didn't smoke back then, right?
Right, because everybody did. Everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the next location that you were talking about was the Scott County Jail in Huntsville, Tennessee, and it's crazy because I had interviewed both the owners of that too in the past on my podcast. I've been doing this for a couple of years and have gotten to know them, and I just love their location. Every time I did an interview with them, they did it in the jail, and they had their little cat with them. So,
Sally.
but Sally. So, Chris is going to put a picture up for the people who are watching. We'll give the credit to the Scott County Jail website. I'll let everybody know a little bit about the building. It's a True Crime and Law Enforcement Appreciation Museum, which spans 3 floors. It was built in 1904. It is in the National Registry of Historic Places. And I'm sure that you had a lot of stuff that happened while you were there. Do tell. Were you there at that one, Rachel?
I was at the most recent one we did at that location.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a very interesting building to say the least. There was definitely an area up in the maximum security area that I really felt like I got a lot of impressions about how just feeling like they didn't like women there, and that there were experienced sensations of getting hair pulled and
Really?
Mm-hmm.
We did an investigation in an Elks Lodge, and a lot of the spirits were from back in the day. So now, in today's world, women get ordained into the lodge because that's just the way it is. And they have this secret meeting room, and the women were experiencing stuff happening to them because those spirits just didn't want the women there because the women weren't supposed to be there. So we were there to say, it's a different world than when you were here, that women are allowed to be elks now, and you need to be accepting of it. But it's weird how that's all they know. So when you have these spirits tugging at your hair, and they don't want you there because you're not supposed to be there.
Yeah, and I know that at the time, Miranda was giving us the tour. She's one of the owners that you were talking about. That she said that in that wing, it was I think they called him Big Roy, who is up there, who just either he liked women a little too much and would do things he wasn't supposed to with women, and so, or there was something there that he didn't like about the environment. But yeah, it was a very neat investigation. I think you had a different experience there, Chanel.
Did you feel uncomfortable at all, or
in that area, in that particular area? Yes.
Yeah.
That was for me, that area was like the one that I felt most uncomfortable.
What about you, Chanel?
So yeah, Rachel, you're right. I did have a different experience, but my experience, I've actually been there twice because I do a lot of like collaborating with other teams too. And so my most memorable experience was when I was there with a couple of like colleagues, and that was last year in 2022, and we were doing the Estes method. And so there's a partition where there's the phones, because they would pick up and do the phone calls. And so they were on, somebody was on like the end where like the prisoners would sit on their end. And then somebody else was on the other side of the glass calling out the questions. And I, of course, was blindfolded with the headphones on. And I was able to communicate with Anna, which even the time when I went back, with all of the other vixens, like I was able to communicate with her again. And like she was just very timid, and then there was this other voice that you heard in the spirit box that was like trying to silence her and like take over, and I ended up actually getting like affected and like ended up like pulling the headphones off and had to get, I looked at my friend Vicky and was like, I have to get out of the building. I was like, I'm going to start to cry. And, you know, went outside, got grounded, and she's like, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. I'm like, I was so overcome because I could feel Anna's fear and her
you're
emotion.
empath, right?
Yeah.
You're empath.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
same thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was like, I have to go. Like, give me 5. Like, I need a good 5-10 minutes to
Right.
took my shoes off and would walk around the ground, you know, get myself back. But that was my most memorable time. And it was like, that was the first time actually being like while investigating that I actually got like overcome like that much emotion. You know, because
Really?
typically I can reel it in. Yeah. Because,
Right.
you can like tell, like, when it's just, you know what I mean? Like the spirits and it's, it's all of that. You're feeling their emotion. But that time I couldn't like reel it in because just his voice was just so like, I hate to use the word evil, but just
That's the
he was
impression
not,
I got.
yeah, he was not a
Mm,
nice man in
wow.
his living life, and you could tell.
Well, when they were shitty in life, they're shitty in death too. So
They
you
tend
take
to
that
be.
personality along with you. Wow, that's crazy. Well, I know you brought along some video footage, so I'm not exactly sure if it's of either of the incidents that you just spoke about, but it was from the jail. So we'll let Chris run that for us so we can watch it and see what happens.
Just little artifacts and, some people that were inmates here. And was that you that just made that noise?
What noise?
It sounded like a whoo.
I said, where is this?
No, I heard like a whoo. Like almost like a cat call.
Well, yawn, like.
Did you go, huh?
Maybe.
Maybe. Yeah, it sounded like a cat call to me.
Like that?
I wasn't the same side. It was like a whoo. I don't know. I'd be real interested to go back on once I like download
so
the live.
Scary, their eyeballs.
Here, y'all want to see
their eyeballs.
The DVR real quick?
Oh, they turn around. Janice's eyeballs are scary.
What was that? That sounded like a hiss.
Yeah, like a snarl.
I wonder if it was that guy.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well,
sound.
All of the prisoners that had been in there over the years, it could have been, they're prisoners. So, not very nice people. So it could have been anyone. But yeah. Was the cat with you guys when you were there? Did the cat react at all to anything, Sally? I'm curious because I know animals are very sensitive.
She kept her downstairs when we were investigating. Yeah. So she didn't really come out with us.
Because they can get really sensitive. I know right now I'm staying in an historic church, and my husband, he's a believer disbeliever. He doesn't want it in his face. He believes it, and he'll be like, no. But if I were to tell him, yeah, look, the fan is moving by itself, he'd freak out. So I can't let him know about anything that's going on here because he's got to sleep here at night. But I have seen things while I've been here, while we've been staying here, like the fans moving on their own and the dogs just responding to something that nobody else can see. And yeah, so it's been kind of cool just observing it from that point, but I'm not able to share it with anybody in the house because they don't want to stay here then. But it is funny. You were also going to talk about the old Moore jail, and I'll let Chris put that picture up there. The old Moore, or is it the Moore County Old Jail? It's got a weird way it sets up the names, but it's in Lynchburg, Tennessee, and the picture credit goes to Mauro Tassi. It is in the National Register of Historic Places. It was in operation for over 100 years, which is crazy cool about that. What happened when you guys were there?
That
Nope, I think you're freezing up for a second, Chanel. So let's just wait until you come back because you froze. I don't know if you're there, Rachel. Are you there? Did we lose you
Yeah.
too?
No, I'm
You're
here.
Okay. Were you at that investigation by any chance?
I
when they went through?
wasn't.
Oh, you
No,
weren't.
I
It
wasn't.
figures.
Yeah, of
It
course.
figures, right? One time we went to go talking about something. It was one that you weren't at, and she is, and she froze on us.
Yeah, of course. That's the way it works, right?
Yeah. Well, you know what? While we're waiting for her to come back, we can run the footage. Oh, wait, there she is. What? She came back and she disappeared. See, this is the problem with being live. You can just
exactly
rely so heavily on. Well, Chris will let her back in when she comes back.
Perfect.
So I don't know, Chris, do you want to run that footage from the jail until she comes back? We can do that. We can watch that in the meantime. I don't think we lost Chris. It can't just be just us two.
There she is.
Okay.
Hey, sorry about that.
That's all right. We were actually getting ready to run the footage while we were waiting, but now that you're here, you can talk about it before we put the footage on.
Yeah, so Rachel, I don't know, you've never investigated there, have you?
I haven't. Yeah, I was telling her that.
Yeah. I had to remember because it's been a while. So we've been there a couple times as a team. And I will tell you that that is the only place that any of us have ever gotten attacked.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Well, good thing it was the only place that you.
And it.
What do you mean by attacked?
So it was actually me, because I didn't listen to my own rules, even though I know better. And so like we're upstairs in the men's cells, and it's me and Samantha, and she and I are really in tune. You know, we investigate together because we've been investigating together for so long. And she looks at me or we're talking, and I was like, I'm like starting to feel kind of like I want to like provoke, but I was really like not like angry. It was more like really sassy and kind of smart assery. Like,
oh, okay.
Yeah, like I was like being like snarky,
The
and I'm there.
Antagonizing spirit now.
Yes,
really.
And rules, right? Because we have a no provocation rule like that.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a reason that we have that rule, and what happened not long after that is why. So, which actually the rule was there before, but so we're talking, and like I'm like taunting. I'm like, what do you think about having these women in your cells? And you know, you got, you know, so 10 out of 10 recommend don't do that. And yeah, so then like I couldn't breathe, and Sam looks at me and she's like, are you okay? I'm like, oh, fine. And then like a minute later, so later, I'm like I can't breathe. And yeah, so we had to quickly get me out of the jail. Same thing, like get grounded. It took me an hour and a half to get like my breathing back together, and it was so like kind of weird but kind of cool because like you know, all these, you know, we just gonna roll like this. But like I had a voice like say to me in my head, cough. And I coughed.
Mm-hmm.
And then like I went, oh, I was able to reset my breathing finally. But it took like a whole hour and a half.
Somebody was looking out for you and helping you.
Yeah, because it was literally like a voice in my head told me to cough. And so yeah, I had like red marks on like my chest and on like my back. Yeah, I did not investigate the men's cells.
You can almost visualize this group of guys' spirits, right? And the one is getting pissed off at you, and he's the one that goes and attacks you, and the other one's like, oh, I gotta tell her to, you know, breathe so she can find her air again. That is so crazy cool. But I can picture it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it was.
Thank you, professional paranormal research. That's really nice of you. He just said he found me on Twitter. I found you guys on TikTok, by the way, too.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. When I was posting the flyer for tonight's show, I was like, oh, there they are. So I tagged you in the post. So
yeah, we're pretty easy to find. If you just like search for us, like Elite Vixen Paranormal, boom, there we are.
Yes, it was easy to find you. Yes, it was. That's for sure. Well, let's see if Chris can put up that footage that we can watch from that jail. I was saying to Rachel, I hope we didn't lose him now, because when you went out. Great. I love that. Love that. Yeah, the big orb debate. That was definitely an orb, though. I had somebody who posted on Facebook, actually a friend of the family, and he bought an old cabin on Lake George. And last summer, he had me walk it because I get this foofy feeling. So I'm able to tell him, yeah, there's something here or there's not. So I tell him, yeah, there's something here. And I was telling him specifically the areas where I was feeling it. And so he just happened to post, because on his house camera, because you know how people are catching shit on their house cameras now. Posts, can you tell me what this is? And of course, you had that whole barrage of people going, oh, it's dust. And it was definitively an orb. So I just private messaged him and I said, there's going to be a big argument with people saying, yes, it is, and no, it's not. But it definitely is an orb, especially in the way it moves. And then I shared with him a video of this like great orb that I got in a church from a private residence. Somebody was living in this church, just like I'm living in this church now. And she caught it on her camera too. And I said, yours is exactly like this one. It's an orb, and don't let anybody tell you otherwise. So I just love when you get those catches. That was a really good one. That was really good.
And especially with the periscope hit.
Yeah. Well, when you get the double evidence or the triple evidence, so you just can't deny stuff like that, especially if you're there and you're feeling stuff and you get the urge to take a picture. It's not just one thing happening that you can debunk it. It's a bunch of things happening that just confirm. And when you get that visual, it's just without a doubt,
Yeah, and that was like caught on our DVR system. Like nobody was around at that point in time that would have set off the periscope. So seeing the periscope hit and then the orb right afterwards, it was like, that's undeniable what that was.
Sure. Absolutely. I love that. So you guys, how do people find you if they want to look you up or get in touch with you?
Like I said just a few minutes ago, if you want to find us, if you type Elite Vixen Paranormal in Google, any type of search, we're going to pop up. We're actually EVP Hunters on Facebook. That's like it's like facebook.com/EVP Hunters. Okay. But if you just type Elite Vixen Paranormal, there we are. You can also reach us by email. It's elitevixenparanormal@gmail.com. We have a phone number. It's on our Facebook page. Look us up.
And what's on the agenda for the months ahead? What are you guys doing? What's going on?
Yeah, we got an investigation, which is our public event that we're doing, which goes back to our Give Back. We do every year around, this is actually the third year doing it. It's the Vixens Give Back. And so we adopted families at the Safe Haven family shelter. And the money that we sold the tickets for this investigation go to provide Christmas for those families.
Oh, that is so nice. Thank you, guys,
we're going.
Wonderful.
Yeah, we're going to the Thomas House, which is one of those in Tennessee that is on the top of everyone's list to be at. It's got a lot of paranormal activity, a lot of history to it. So
you'll have to tell me what happens, what goes down.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Yeah, we're really excited. I'm excited because I haven't been there before. I guess the team was there not last year, but the year before. And I think you had some interesting stuff there as well, right, Chanel?
Yeah, it was pretty interesting. Like overall, it was a pretty quote unquote slow night. But I mean, sitting in the I don't know what it's called, but we'll just go with conference room for lack of a better term. we had like a pretty good like EVP session, bunch of EVPs called, and if I remember correctly, like we had a pencil that kept moving on its own. You know, while we're like in the session, because we kept like hearing it and like seeing it move, and we're just like, y'all, there's the pencils like moving. So that was pretty cool. We also had a really good session with the dowsing rods. One of the owners, they lost one of their children, an adult child. But his name is David, and we were able to like connect with him and talk with him and communicate with him. Yeah, and he tried to take Jessica home. Like he wanted Jessica to be his girlfriend. So
it's so crazy cool when you do an investigation and you're there for spirit hunting, yet you have these spiritual visits from deceased loved ones that come through all the time. Bye, professional paranormal research. Thanks for stopping and listening. Vixens and love you, sisters, is what they said.
We'll see you on Saturday.
Yes, we'll see you Saturday.
Yeah, those spiritual visits are great. And it's so cool because you're able to give the family oftentimes closure or some kind of happy message from their loved one. And I mean, oftentimes we end up crying because it's just so touching to have that happen. So I love that happened with you guys too, with their son. That's really cool.
Yeah, we had that happen. It was a location that we actually can't give the name, but it was last spring. And a place that's really like Raina actually is really like tied to that place. And she lost a dear friend and he actually died there. And that was like seeing her interaction with like, I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it.
Wow.
Too. It's crazy.
Oh,
that's weird.
Seeing that was so profound.
I'm sure.
You know, and like there was one point during that investigation where like we all were in like the kitchen area and I was like, I don't think that we're supposed to be here. So like everybody left. I was
moment.
Yes. So it was like me kind of watching, you know, because we don't ever leave like anybody alone, just because you never know.
Sure.
So I was like a couple feet, probably a good 5-10 feet away from her, maybe. And then she was having this interaction, and it was like by the time like she said goodbye, like I was in tears, and like she come over me, I just gave her a hug. Like that was so amazing.
Yeah. Oh,
such good evidence that will never be released.
Sure. Yeah. Well, you just talked about it. That's, you know, and I see this kind of stuff happen all the time. And then you have your skeptics and your people that don't believe it. And I just tell the people who experienced it, because we get these nuances from our deceased loved ones all the time, whether you have a paranormal team there making the connection, or if you see them in a cloud or a bird or a butterfly or a dragonfly, whatever is personally symbolic to you. They're there all the time. And I tell these people, receive it and accept it. Do not let anyone tell you that it's not real, because if you hear it and you feel it in your heart that that's your deceased mom or your deceased brother, it is. That's them letting you know, hey, I'm here and I'm always with you. And it really is a profound experience for sure. So
yeah, it is. So heartwarming.
Ladies, this was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed having you on. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having us.
And have fun at your investigation. You're going on another one on Saturday, so have fun with that.
Yeah, we will.
And Techie Chris, thanks. We couldn't do it without you. I appreciate you too. If you liked listening to this week's episode and you're into all things paranormal, check out my other show, Eleanor Wagner's Strange and Scary World podcast, out of the Paranormal UK Radio Network, which is available wherever you get your podcasts. You can watch and listen to the uncut version directly through my Eleanor Wagner YouTube channel, too. And if any of you are interested in reading any of my books, you can find them on Amazon. You can get signed copies directly through me at authoreleanorwagner@gmail.com. I write about the history of the town and location. I add the paranormal story to the mix, and I finish it all off with photos and evidence. I'm also excited to share that I now have t-shirts available from both my Creepin It Reel podcast and Strange and Scary World podcast. Anyone interested can email me at author@eleanorwagner@gmail.com. Lastly, viewers, tune in on Thursday, December 21st at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time when Megan Padney from Paranormal with Meg joins me for some ghostly gab. Have a good night, everyone. Thanks for coming.
I hope you've enjoyed this little journey down my own personal nightmare alley. If you're one of those people who experiences the paranormal and has stories of your own you've been filing away over the years, I want to hear about them. And if you're a part of a paranormal investigative team, even better. I'd love to have you on my show. Got a questionable photo? Send it in. Would love to have an open discussion here amongst the professionals. Reach out to me at author@eleanorwagner@gmail.com. Enjoy our soundtrack music, Headless Horseman by Alexander Nakarada, promoted by freestockmusic.com. And remember, no ghost story is better than a real-life ghost story. Until we meet again, make sure you're creeping it real.